I'm Dr. Kristen R. Bromley. This video series, which is part of my online music academy, specifically accompanies Note Reading Book 3 from my Method book series. Like all my books, this selection is available to purchase through Amazon and Google Play. For help, see the links in the description below. In the videos which are part of this specific course, I progress through the lessons in Note Reading Book 3, explaining and demonstrating concepts and playing each of the songs and exercises contained therein, so you can hear how they sound and play them right along with me. You are of course welcome to view these videos with or without the book, but with the book you can work through all the songs and exercises, and in the process come to know the entire fretboard and master the skill of playing written notes all along the neck. Alright, let's get to jamming in this lesson. Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Bromley. Welcome to my online academy. I am delighted to have you joining me here in these video lessons. In this video, I'm going over the materials covered in Lesson 9 in the Note Reading Book 3. So, it's going to be great. In this lesson, we get to learn about how to shift between the different positions. So far as we've been reading, we've always stayed in one position at a time. And we started off with single octave scales and played in positions where those were at. And then we filled out the rest of the position by combining scales together and partial scales together. And sometimes we'd have to shift by a fret to accommodate the range of the notes in that position. But we end up with 5 positional forms that cover the entire neck. So in this lesson, we're actually going to work on shifting between the positions. It's pretty cool. So if you take a look at page 48 in the book, you'll see right in the middle of the page the 5 positional forms set next to each other and sort of showing the ways that they overlap by the frets, so the notes that they have in common amongst themselves. So we see first there the C major scale in second position, and these aren't exactly showing positions or exactly showing keys, because the same sort of thing is going to be the case regardless of what key we play in, and down the road in a couple lessons we're going to start playing in other keys. So we know though that we have that C note and we put our middle finger on it, and that's the first position there where we can play a C major scale full octave right there in second position where our middle finger starts on fret 3 on the 5th string. And then we have red in this position and we fill it out with the rest of the notes that are available. We can also go lower and then come back. So let's play that scale a couple times. Remember that one. Now the next one that's up the neck, the next one up the neck, has our pinky on that 8th fret on the 6th string, and we're playing a C major scale there. So you can play that one a couple times just to get comfortable with it. So we're in 5th position, and we do have to go down to 4th position just to play that one note on the 3rd string. Then the next one has our middle finger at on the 6th string at the 8th fret, and we play the major scale there. And we've read in all these positions. I can do that one more time. So you practice that as much as you need to review that. Then we're up into 9th position and 10th position. Our root is on that 4th string, our middle finger is on the 10th fret of the 4th string, and we have the scale there. So you can play that one a couple times. Up to 12th position with our pinky on that root note on the 5th string at fret 15. So, and then we've got all in 12th position. Let me do that one more time. we go up and we start all over again with the same ones, and you'll notice that now that we've got 6 forms there on the page, that last one is the exact same one as the first one. Our middle finger goes on the 15th fret on the 5th string, and for some of you, it starts to get tight. It starts to get tight for me, even with the cutaway. So you can play that one a couple times. Now from there, if you wanted to, you could go all the way up to be in the 17th position where our pinky's on 20, fret 20 with the pinky, and you could play the next one. So you could actually cover the whole neck with these. We don't tend to play up high like that very often. There's only a few notes that we can reach on the higher strings that we can't reach in a lower position on the lower strings as we go higher. Okay, so that's how they sit next to each other. Now when we're playing music, sometimes a certain passage, a couple different scenario type things can happen where we would want to shift. One is maybe the position that we're playing in, the particular passage that we're playing does not finger very well in that position, but it would finger better in another position, an adjacent one that has some of the same notes, where we could finger it in that position instead, so we just shift to that position. Another scenario is where we're reading along and the music goes out of the range of the notes in the position that we're in, so we got to shift to another position that has those notes in it. And that happens. A lot of music that we read will not have indications on which position we should play something in, and we just have to decide. And when we're sight reading, sometimes we just sort of instinctively pick a position, pick one that we're most comfortable with, but the music goes out of that range and we got to shift to another position. So here in this lesson, I'm going to go over some great ways to shift between positions. There are multiple ways to shift between positions, especially when you consider that you've got 5 different positions and then they start over. You've got a lot of shifting that you could do between them. But I'm going to start with the ones where we're sort of moving to close by or adjacent. So nearby or adjacent positions, and you get used to shifting between them really the same sort of ways, the same shifting motion happens. Sometimes it feels like, wow, we really got to move our hand far on the neck, but then when you move your hand out here away from the neck, it would just be a teeny way. So it's actually not as tricky as it may seem. We'll look at some ways, and then there are some exercises, 2-octave exercises in here that can be practiced with any of the ones shown here, and then this introduction gets you going. Of course, in the future, you can continue to practice this sort of thing in future lessons and other keys. There will be a little bit of explanation with that. But you can also just, if you're not yet ready to have the neck known this way, moving from position to position, you can get more familiar with lessons 1 through 8, get really comfortable with where those notes are, and then jump into this is an okay thing to do as well. This pushes us to the next level. It requires us to see the neck and see those multiple positions sort of collectively together and how we can connect them. Okay, so we'll look at first some ways that we can connect, position the scale in 2nd position and 3rd position, a major scale, to the one in 4th and 5th position. And actually we're going to stick to just sort of a 2-octave scale in the exercises, so I'm not going to worry about the shifting down on the lower strings for now, but that can be done as well. But the first thing, we can basically shift on any of the strings. There's 6 strings and the 2 forms sit next to each other, so we can shift on any of these 6 strings. But you'll see the first one there at the bottom of page 48. We're going to practice shifting on string 5. So I've got 2, 4, and I will point out that these fingerings are just suggestions. There's multiple ways you can do it depending on the passage. One way may work better than another. So these are not set in stone as the only way, but they're a way you can get started, and you can see other fingerings. So for example, on this low string, we can go 2, 4, and then as we shift to the next position, 4, the note at string 4, which is the D, or with our 4th finger, sorry, is the D, is common in both of the positions. So we can go 2, 4, and then slide up to 5th position, and then 3, 4, finish out what's on that string. 2, 4, 3, 4, and you've got that written there. And then we would continue with the rest of the notes. And I just fingered that. It's written 3, 1, but I just fingered it pinky 1, which is an okay thing to do too. There's lots of different ways to finger, as we know. 4, 3, and then 4, 2. So 2, 4, 3, 4, and then back down. So I'm just going up to step 5 to save on the full scale. You can just practice that back and forth. Now another way would be to go 2, 1, 3, 4. So that's on that string, and we can play that whole scale doing it that way. If we do that together, we'd go Ret, T, and. So that's how we'd shift on the 5th string between the two forms. Now if we look at shifting on the 4th string, so we go over to the next page, page 49, and we can shift between on the 4th string. So in this case we'd start off 2, 4, and then on the next string you have 1, 2, 4. Normally in the scale, but our pinky again, that note is in both of these forms. So we can also finger it in the new one, 2, 4, or 1, 4, or 1, 3. So if we're going to shift onto that one, 2, 4, 1, 2, I can slide up and go 2, 4, 1, 2. I'm just going to finish out the octave. 2, 4, 1, 2, 2, 4, 1, 2 is what is written. A couple other options might be to go 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3. So I could use different fingers, or 1, 4. Or 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 4, 1, 2. So those would be the ways that we could shift on that string. But if we do the one that's written there and we play the full thing, we'd have Ret, T, go, 2, 4, 1, 2, 2, 4. So pretty snazzy. If we go, we can shift on the 3rd string between these. So first of all, that 3rd string, we have the full octave in this initial position. In the next position, we have where the 2nd octave starts, plus step 7. So there's 2 notes that actually overlap between these forms. And that makes it, you know, we have different ways that we can shift with that. If we use the one that's written there on page 49 for shifting on the 3rd string, then we're going to shift when we get to the root note. So 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, shift 1, 3, and we continue. So right at that octave, we play 7 notes in the 1st octave, and then we shift to the next octave of the scale up to play the higher octave in that new position, 5th position. Let's do that. So you'd have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, and then coming back down, 3, 1, 3, 1. So that's a great way to do it. Now there's other ways on that string, of course. We could have 1, so I'm just playing the A note there at 2nd fret on the 3rd string, and I can shift up 1, 2, 4. So I could have, that's a common way to do it as well. Shift. So I'm playing the 7th step, the B, the C, and the D all in that new position, and coming back down. And that's completely acceptable. Let's play it that way. We got Ret, T, and. As you come down, you gotta make sure and grab the D with the 4th finger. If you grab it with the ring finger and stay in that position, you're gonna have to shift twice. But if you grab it with the pinky, if you do grab it with the ring finger when you're playing, it's always going to be the easiest shift to go to the ring finger again for step 7. But if I want to grab it because I've grabbed 4, 2, 1, so just like that. Now we can also on that string shift on that pinky, so 1, 3, 4, shift up with the pinky. Lots of ways. Let's try that way. So you got ready and just like that. That is one of the most common places to shift between these two positions, right at that octave, because it's easy for us to see that scale in that first octave with that really comfortable. It's the first thing we ever did. And then to be able to do that same thing up the octave with that same scale form, just on the different string sets. That's one of the most common places, and that's what we're going to practice with here in a minute for the most part when we're reading. But look on at string 2, we can actually shift on string 2. So on string 2, the notes that are shared between the two positions are the E and the F. So we can play D, E, F there, and we're in 3rd position, so that first one, and then shift up with our pinky and be in the new position. You can also shift 1, 3, and then have the on the F note be with the new. So 2, 3, 1, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. You could also shift index to index. D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The one that is written is the 1, 3, 2, 4. So let's do that one here. Play this whole scale using that one. So you got ready and 2, 4, 2, 4, 1. That's all there is to it on the 2nd string. Of course, you can use any of those, and the one written in is just a great place to start. As I gave different ones too, I try to practice with the different switches between the fingers. 1 to 1, 1 to 3, 3 to 4, so on and so on. Okay, and if we take a look at shifting on that top string then, we have the G note, third fret, so index we're in 3rd position. In the initial position we got that, and then up to the ring finger, and that A note is in both of them. In 5th position we put our index finger there. So, a couple different ways. We can go 1, 3, and then 3, 4, kind of like we did down lower. We can also go index to index. And that's what's written there as the example. So, that's the one we'll do. I've tried, there's lots of different ways, that as you've seen, that we can finger these. I've tried to write out the ones there that gave different ways to practice. So if those were the only ones you practiced, you'd get used to shifting from index to index, or 2, 4 to 3, 4, or 1, 2 to 2, 4. The different ways that you might end up shifting, and some of those similar types of movements happen in different places. But if you weren't to practice all the different options, if you didn't want to take that time and master it that well, then just doing these ones you'll get a good variety. So let's play this whole scale with the example as written there. So you're going to go ready, and we'd have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, and then shift up. Just like that. Now, as I mentioned, we can go lower and play lower. So in this position, we have on that low 6th string, we could shift on the 6th string. I've got the G and the A. In 5th position, we have A and then B, C. So if I was coming down and wanted to finish back up, I could go with my pinky on that A and then slide up B, C, 3, 4, or 1, 3, 4. So different ways to shift on that string. Or if I was coming down and wanted to catch the G but just finish in that position. Lots of different ways you could do that too. I wasn't worrying about that. If we flip on over to page 50, we have some scales and some exercises that we can actually practice reading with these. Now, in doing these, you could practice with all the shifting options that we had written out on the previous pages. Because this is written, it stays within a 2-octave scale, and we practiced within a 2-octave scale. So in reading, you won't always end up staying within the 2 octaves. So you might be in positions to read the notes that go beyond that. But sort of to facilitate a way to practice this without covering everything that would be possible, which would be a whole book in and of itself, and probably more than anybody would want to really work through. Though we might work through the different possibilities in a certain musical passage as we're mastering a piece of music or something that we've got to play or read or improvise. But here in exercises, this is plenty to get you going. These exercises all stay within the 2-octave. They don't go outside of the 2-octave, root to root to root. So those 3 roots and then the notes in between. It doesn't go outside of that range. So we're going to read through these, and you can practice these with any of the ones that we were working on. But one of the easiest places to get going on seeing this is seeing that single octave scale connected with the next position with the single octave scale. So right there in this position, shifting on string 3. So as we're playing these, I will mostly shift there, and that's what I would recommend you do as you get started with this, and then you can look at shifting on the other ones. Of course, there may be places where it's actually much easier when playing to shift on one of the other strings, whether that be the 2nd string or the 4th string or even the 5th string or the top string. So if there's a passage where you want to shift differently, you certainly can. There's going to be no rules really as we go back and forth between the 2 positions, but what I recommend as you get going is to just mainly focus on shifting between the positions on that 3rd string. That's where I will focus my shift for the most part as we go through these. Okay, we're going to read number 1. So you can have 1, 2, ret-ti, go. And then I'm shifting here. 1. Now, if there was one that you wanted to practice them all with, that would be a great one to start with. And as you get to the different notes with some of the skips and the little scale pattern there, you might find that on each of those strings there's a different way that fingers best for the different passage. So as I was doing that last one, I went 1, 3, 1, 3. As I came down, I may have done 3, 1, and then 1, 2, and then 3, 1. So I kind of shifted different ways on that string. And that's okay, whatever works well for the passage is what's ideal. Okay, we'll go ahead and do number 2. Of course, you can practice these as many different ways as you want, but I want to make sure you've got one where you're hearing it, playing along with me. In this, we're sort of doing it in a similar position. Or at least I'm explaining to you which position I'm planning, or which string I'm planning on doing my shifting on, which is the 3rd string for the most part. So here you go. We'll do number 2. You have 1, 2, ret-ti, and. Okay, and there was a spot in there where I actually did the shift on the 4th string. So it just sort of facilitated better, and that's a-okay. Or you might get all the way through and think, oh, I forgot to shift once I got into the higher position or something, and that's okay too. In general, as you're working on these, sort of to force the shift is, if you thought, I'm gonna, by the 3rd string for sure, shift up, and then coming down by that 4th string. If you stay on those inside 2 strings, it'll force you to practice shifting because you'll be catching the low root and the high root in those other positions. But like I said, it can be done on any of these strings. Okay, we're going to go over to page 51. I'll play through number 3, so you've got one of that you can hear and play along with if you'd like to. So you're going to have 1, 2, ready, and... Okay, a couple places in that one, once I'd already shifted to the new position, to shift back and forth was unnecessary, but grabbing the note in that position with those different skips was the best option. So you may have done something like that as well. I also mentioned that I'm oftentimes looking ahead to make decisions. In this one, it facilitates the opportunity to maybe to shift where there's sort of a big skip. So when we're coming down to that root, for example, on that last line, F, E, D, C, then I can just shift right on down to that position, even though it's on a different string. I just jumped back in, and there were some spots like that in that one. These sort of facilitate the types of things we run into in real music and the decisions that might be made. Okay, I'll do number 4. So you're going to have 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Okay, if you were to watch me, there was a couple times where I did shift on that 4th string or use the notes on the 4th string and then shift down or shift it up. That way to sort of facilitate the best shifting option. We'll go on over to page 52. Do some melodies. Melodies open up some fun. It's a nice break from these scale exercises that correlate with all sorts of things that we run into when reading music, but it's nice to just break it up with some simple melodies. Okay, so she'll be coming around the mountain. Give us 3, 4, 1, 2, and then we'll be in with she'll be in there. Okay, here you go. 3, 4, 1, 2. 3, 4, rest 2. 2. 4, 1, 2. Now I kind of used a lot of the notes on that 2nd string, not wanting to shift or force myself to shift, and it's good also to force ourselves to shift. I'll do it one more time. Try it a different way. You can too. 3, 4, 1, 2. 3, 4, rest 2. 3, 4, rest 2. 3, 4, 1, 2. So I use some different options that way. You can practice it as many different ways as you want. Rests make shifting easy. If you didn't notice that, that is a great example of rests making shifting easy because we got space to reset, time to reset in the new position. I'll do this train. So you go 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, ready, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, ready, and okay. And that one I used a couple different options. Sometimes borrowed that 2nd string, sometimes borrowed that 4th string because that fingered the best. So lots of different ways. Number 7, Saint Theodulf. So we're going to go, I'll give us a 3-beat count in, we'll catch beat 4. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3, off. Okay, so we'll do Acres of Clams, number 8. Now with this one, so much of it is actually written on the higher strings either way. So this is a great one to practice shifting on the higher strings like the 2nd and 1st string if you want to practice there. Otherwise most of it's going to be played up in 5th position anyway. And starting it off, starting in 5th position makes the most sense if we're going to play that part in 5th position. So this is a great one. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to shift back and forth a little bit on those higher strings, practice that a little bit. Okay, I'll start out in 5th position. Catch the G, C. So I'm going to give us 3, 1, 2 in the count off, and we'll catch beat 3 in the pickup measure. 3, 1, 2. 1, 2. 3, 1, 2. 1, 2. 3, 1, 2. It's going to continue on to the next page. 1, 2. 2, 3, 1, off. Okay, and we'll do number 9, C major scale exercise number 5. So these exercises are going to get a little trickier with numbers 9 and 10, especially number 10, bringing in those 16th notes. So like I mentioned in the previous lessons, if this is overwhelming, then practice the earlier ones until you feel comfortable. Then you can work on the more challenging ones. Okay, number 9. We'll go 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Okay, and in sight reading it just like that, there were some choices I made in the shifting that I would probably decide to do differently if I was learning and memorizing, getting this down as fast as I can. And you can do that with each of these exercises. You can practice different shifts and get them down fast, get the exercises going quicker. It just builds up the actual technical ability. Okay, and number 10, the C major scale, so exercise 6. This one's got a lot of those 16th notes, so I'm going to take it kind of slow on the 8th note level. And again, if you're not ready for this one, that's okay, but I record it here so that you've got them so you can hear what they sound like and work on them as you desire. Here we go. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. Okay, now as you move on through the rest of the lesson, starting over on page 54, it's going to talk about other ways to shift. And the rest of the lesson doesn't cover all the ways, but you could explore different ones. But it does explore a couple of these ones that we can do. So I'm going to talk through them, but I'm not going to replay any of the exercises or any of the songs with these. I'm just going to talk through them, but as I go through them, you can of course use those songs and exercises to practice these different ones through all the different shifts or through just some of the shifts. So we just shifted between the second position, C major scale, on that, and the 1 and 5th position. We sort of prioritized playing the higher notes in 5th position and the lower notes in the 2nd and 3rd position, or really 2nd position when we're on the lower notes. And that is a great thing to do. That's sort of a natural way that we end up using this because, we're moving higher, and we just sort of move along the neck in this diagonal way. As we get higher, we get onto the higher strings and move higher. But of course, we can shift on those lower strings, and as I mentioned, it just really depends on the music and what fingers best. The two reasons that we shift for the most time: one, we have to because the song is moving out of the range of that position, or two, we shift into another position because it fingers better in that position. So those are kind of the reasons that we go into different positions. Now, we can take shifting from this major scale in 2nd position, and it works really slick. We can shift on up to the scale in 7th position. Now, what you notice with these two positions, we start on the lowest place that we can start. So in the 7th position, that's on the 6th string, with that middle finger, using that first form that we read with, and then we shift to the other form. Here in the 2nd position, it's the same thing, only we're starting on the 5th string and then we shift. And we don't have the whole octave, but we can shift up that way, and then we do have a little bit lower. So, in this case, as we shift from position to position on these strings, we're actually continuing wherever we are in the same single octave scale form, which is kind of cool. So if you take a look there on page 54 with the first one, shifting on string 5 between that 2nd position and the 3rd, this is what's kind of awesome about shifting on this one. We'd play our normal scale, 2-4-1, 2-4-1, 3-4. Now we can take that scale and play it on the entire thing on one string, really. 2-4, then go 2 frets higher, 1-2-4, 2 frets higher, 1-3-4. So we can use that exact fingering just like that. We can actually do the same thing with the alternate position where we start with our pinky, or the alternate form, the 2nd form we learned. That same thing, we can go 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, and then 1, 2, just separated on that same string. Everything's separated by a 2 frets. So you have 1, or we start with the pinky, then you have 1, 3, 4, then skip over 1, 3, then skip over 1, 2. So that one works that way too. So when we're playing between the 2nd position and the 7th position, we just continue with the same fingerings we would use on the next string, but we're going to be on the same string. So I've got 2, 4, and then 1, 2, 4, and you could just kind of up to that 5th step, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, and I'm just naming out fingerings. You got to skip over a fret to do do that shift. So if we were to play the whole scale, the 2-octave scale that way, we go ret, D, and we'd have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. We're just playing up to that high octave, so I'm leaving off that high D. 4, 2. On the next string, on the 4th string, if you look at the next one, you got 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, and then we finish it off with 1, 3, 4. So just practicing that shifting string a couple times. You got 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1. So if we play the whole scale, it would be like this: ret, D, and 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. Super slick. Now, as we get into the higher string, it does change a little bit because we've finished off the whole octave. We're actually using the alternate form now. So where we have like 4, 1, 3, 4. So we're gonna have 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. So that's how that goes on that string. You can practice on the 3rd string, just between that A, B, C, D, E, F, E, D, C, B, A. Okay, if we play the whole scale shifting on the 3rd string, you'd have ret, D, and 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Just up to that C, since we're just playing the 2-octave scale. Like that. Now when we get to the 2nd string, you have 1, 3, 4, then 2, 4 is how I finger it because 1, 2. But we've got the different ways in which we finger that that alternate single octave form. But I go 1, 3, 4, 2, 4. Moving between these positions is nice because there's no repeats or no crossover between the 2 sections. So in some ways, that makes this really easy because there's really only one option for the shift when it happens on a string like that. Okay, if we play the whole thing shifting on the 2nd string, we go ret, D, and. And of course we have the high strings, so we're going to have the G and the A in 3rd position, and then the B and the C in 7th. So G, A, B, C. Get used to that shift. So you go ret, T, and with the whole scale. Ret, T, and. Like that. Now of course we could shift on the 6th string, the low 6th string as well, but it goes out of the full octave. That's why I didn't mess with it. And with the 6th string, it's the same thing that's on the high string anyway. We've got G and A, and then B and C and D. Just like so. Okay, so that's that position, and you could practice reading and any of those exercises going between those positions. It's a natural place to go. Over on page 55, and that last example was on page 55, I didn't say that exactly, but I figured if you were following along you find it. We have the option of shifting between that major scale in 7th position and the one that's in that 9th, 10th position, so the one that's right next to it. Just like that. Now this is going to work really similarly to the way moving from the 2nd, 3rd position did, switching up to that octave on the higher string, the 5th fret. There's going to be some similarities there. So if we look first at shifting on the 6th string, first you just want to play those 2 forms. Just review them, all the notes in them, and then on that higher string, or that higher position, okay, so in this one, we've got in position 7, and we won't be using that B because it's outside of the 2-octave range, but we do have it there. We've got that overlap, the D on the 6th string. So we can take our middle finger and go 1, 3, 4. So we shift. We can also go 2, 4, 3, 4. Now the one I've got written there so that you would practice, as I said earlier in the lesson, I've sort of written out different options that if you just did the ones that are written here, you would get practice with a lot of the different, probably all the different shift combinations in our fingers that we would use. But written there is 2, and then you got slide up to that 1, 3, 4. You could also go 2, 4, 3, 4, which is what we used down here when we practiced it on the 5th string with those other positions. But 2, 4, 3, 4, or as written, 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 3, 4. And then as you go on with this one onto the 5th string, I've got written there as an example to use 1 and 4. Before I had 1 and 3, so you get to practice the different fingerings. Sometimes I will just collapse my hand, use my pinky, because it facilitates going up to that new position in 9th position instead of 10th. Sometimes I will grab it 1, 3. So, and sometimes I'll grab it 2, 4. And so the different combinations that you'll see throughout here get you practice with all of them. But you can do, the one written there on this time is 1, 4. Okay, so if we played this whole thing with the example that's written on page 55, we'd have Reti and 2, 1, 3, 4, 1, 4. We just continue out that scale. And we're only going to play up to the C, because we're just doing the 2 octaves. We do have the full range. But all the exercises in this lesson are designed in the 2 octaves, sort of facilitate practicing in multiple places without having to have exercises that exactly stick to the range of each position. Okay, so we can shift on string 6, we can shift on string 5. So with string 5, we have the 2, 4, 1, 2, and then where our pinky is on that G is also the note that is in the next position. So there's a couple ways we could do it. We could go 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 3, or 1, 4 with the pinky. We could also go 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 4. That's another option. All good options. In coming down, 4, 2, 2, 1. You may end up shifting like that, but we try to avoid it. So 4, 4, 2, 1. When you have to shift fingers again and again, more than just once, it bogs down the playing usually. Okay, so if we play it as written, we're going to have the 2, 4, 1, 2, 2, 4, and continue right on up that scale. Let's play that one. So you got Reti and 2, 4, 1, 2, 2, 4. Like so. Okay, now if we look at shifting on the 4th string then, so the ones that are in common are 3 and 4. That B and that C is also in the next position, the 9th position. So a couple ways we can do it. We can go 1, 3, 2, 4, or 1, 1, 2, 4. On the downside, 4, 4, 3, 1. Slide on the pinky, shift to 2, 4, or slide on that index finger. So if we slide on the index finger, you're gonna have 1, 1, 2, 4. Practice that one a couple times. If you go 1, 3, 2, 4, it's a great one as well. And then if we slide on the pinky, now with the example that is written, we've got 1, 3, 2, 4. So we'll play it that way. Ready and the whole thing. Okay, and if you flip the page over to page 56, you can look at shifting on string 3. So on string 3, you have 1, 3, 4, so D, E, F. That E and the F are also in position 9, so E, F, G. So we have 1, 3, 2, 4 that we can do between those two. Just like before, we can go 1, 1, 2, 4. So slide with that index finger. Or slide with the pinky. We've got it written here to do 1, 3, 2, 4, just like we did. That's usually the best one with this one, but not always, so I'm going to mention those others. Let's go ahead and play the whole thing that way. So you're going to have ready and. Like so, and then of course we can shift on the second string as well. With that one, we have what would be played in the 7th position with our pinky. That A note is common between the two, so we have a couple different options there. We can play 2, 4, and then 3, 4. We can come and just play 2, or with our index finger, and then slide up 1, 3, 4, so 2. I grab my middle finger a lot of times instead of my index finger, because if I do my index, then I've got to collapse my hand. Without it, I don't, and it just depends. Am I going to go higher? If I go higher, I have to shift again, onto a higher string. But it can be done either way. So I can come around, grab index, 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 and coming down. Or I can grab my middle finger and then my index. And of course I can also shift to 3, 4. So any of those options work. The one that's written here is to go middle finger and then grab 1, 3, 4. So that gives us that shift to practice. Let's go ahead and do that. So you go ready and. So any of the songs and exercises can be practiced with that shifting option. And there's one more shown here, and that is to go between that 7th position and 12th position. Of course, we're only going to use the 2 octaves between them. But this one, just like when we were shifting from position 2 to position 7, it's the same layout on the scale. So when shifting from this one, it's that same thing. We've got that single octave that we can play on one string. And if I wanted to continue up there, I could play it. So when we've got it like that, you're going to have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Now we're not going to do the whole thing on one string, but we are going up to that next string. So 1, 2, 4. So they're in 7th position, and this shown on page 56, shifting on string 6 for between position 7 and 12. I've got my 2, 4, then I'm going to grab 1, 2, 4. So you can just practice that a couple times. Now let's play the whole 2-octave scale. So you'd have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Okay, then if we look at shifting on string 5, it's going to be that same sort of thing. So we're going to have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, then 2 frets higher, 1, 3, 4. That's all there is to it. So you can just practice that a couple times. And now we play that full 2 octaves there. So you got red T and. Okay, and if we were to shift on string 4, which is over on page 57, we have 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. We're going to shift up 1, 3, 4. So we have that A, B, C, then D, E, F. Same fingerings between the two. If we play the full 2 octaves, we'd have red T and 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. And same kind of thing. If we shift on string 3, we have 1, 2, 4, 1. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. We normally go 1, 3, 4, then 1, 3. Just 2 notes on that 3rd string in the higher position. So you have 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. We play the whole scale from there. We going the whole position shifting on string 3. We got red T and, or the whole 2 octaves, I should say. 1, 3, 4, shift. Just like that. Okay, so then if we look at that high string shifting on string 2, we're going to have that middle finger on the G, so in 7th position 2, 4, and then shift up for 1, 2. 2, 4, 1, 2. You could also finger it 1, 3, 1, 2. Then you're just going to have a little bit of a shift again, because it puts you in 8th position technically, and you'll be back to 7th as you go lower or higher. Okay, let's play the full 2 octaves that way. So you got red T and. Now, of course, with this one, we could play the notes in those positions that go into the wider range than that 2 octaves. We're just practicing with the 2 octaves because that's what the exercises stay within. But you can, of course, go 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, and play up to that G. You could go on the higher string and actually shift on the top string with this position. The same way we go 2, 4, 1, 2, 4 on the lower string. Okay, so that wraps us up on the ways to shift between positions that are exemplified here in this lesson. Of course, there are other ways, but these are sort of the main ways, and any other option out there would follow a similar pattern. So there are times in music where we'll have a break, like with a rest or something, and we'll actually just skip to another position. But when going from one position to another right within the music, we're usually going from a position to the one that's right next to it, or to a close by position where we can just sort of continuously move through them just like this. And in future lessons, when we're working in other keys, we'll be using these same scale forms. We'll just be in different positions for the scales because we'll be in a different key. So all the different types of shifting, really, if you master these, you can handle shifting in music. And like I mentioned earlier, we really have a couple different reasons, 2 reasons really, that we end up shifting. One is because we have to, because the music moves out of the range of the position that we're playing in. And the other is because the music would be better fingered in another position. And sometimes some of that music is fingered in one position the best, and then the next part is fingered in another position better. So we just kind of shift between them, and we work that so we can play the music in the best way possible. When sight reading, we're kind of just going at it unless it tells us what position to read in. And most often music with these kind of intricate single lines doesn't tell us that. Now, if we're reading classical music or solo style guitar, a lot of times they will tell us what position we're supposed to read in if somebody's figured it out and then put it into the sheet music, as I have explained here where to actually read these. So you might be sight reading and just doing the best you can and be forced, but then go back and find passages and decide specifically what positions you want to read it in. Of course, the guitar is really opened up when we realize that we just are using 2 different scale forms that are moved onto different string sets, and that we can connect those 2 together. That just opens up the neck for improvisation and reading music and just knowing the neck in general. So I hope this helps. Of course, you can practice with scale 1 through 10, stay within 2 octaves, sort of designed that you could practice with all these and other ones without worrying about the exact positions, how high or low the range of the exact positions, just within the 2 octaves. But it can go outside of that. And so another way to practice is just to read the music that's written in a position other than the position that I specified, and then shift as you have to or need to. So you can just sort of practice that reading that way if you'd like to. In the next lesson, in lesson 10, we're going to be working on minors. So we're going to do the key of A minor. A minor is actually a relative to C major, which we've been working exclusively in C major. That means relative means that they have the exact same key signature, the exact same notes. It's just that where we start and end in that scale changes the emphasis of the notes and the way they sound. The intervallic relationship between the different steps of the scale are different, so it gives us a different sound. In this case, it's going to give us a minor sound. So in the next lesson, we'll be working on A minor. We'll see how that relates, as we'll be using the notes in the same positions we've already read in, but we'll be doing it with minors. So that'll be great. Have fun, and we'll see you next time. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For help with other guitar playing skills, check out more of my method books and the numerous lessons available as part of my online academy here on YouTube. You can find more information about me and my products at kristenbromley.com. Take care.